In Chicago's concrete jungles, some names become whispers, then legends, often written in blood. What does it take to rise where every day is a battle for survival? And what is the final price for loyalty to the block? This is the story of a figure whose life and death show the brutal reality of O-Block, a name linked with fierce loyalty and devastating violence, a man known as Munna Duke. His path from a young boy in the infamous Calumet buildings to a feared O-Block enforcer is a chilling example of a cycle that consumes so many. Rakhan bin Salah Vance, later known as Munna Duke, first opened his eyes on February 13, 1994. His early years were spent inside the Calumet building at 6217 South Calumet Avenue, a place later called the Castle. This was not just public housing. It was a crucible, shaping countless individuals who would become key names in Chicago's street story, a stronghold for the Black disciples. When these high-rises were torn down in 2007, a citywide plan to deconcentrate poverty, it scattered and reshaped gang territories. For young Duke and many others, the next stop was Parkway Gardens, a quiet complex that would soon earn a more notorious name, O-Block. At first, it was a place of relative calm, kids playing, the usual youthful energy. But beneath the surface, O-Block's future identity was forming, and Duke's path was already turning from typical teenage mischief to the hard-edged realities that would shape his life. Parkway Gardens was changing, and so were its young residents. For Duke, the path was turning from boyish antics to the hard reality of the streets that would soon define him. As O-Block started to form its identity in the late 2000s, Munna Duke was one of the younger faces, reportedly learning the brutal street codes from older, established figures. The setting was volatile, and simmering tensions soon exploded into open warfare. The year 2011 is often seen as a devastating turning point. The killing of Shondale Tuka Gregory, a GD affiliate, allegedly by O.D. Perry from Wick City, O-Block, started a firestorm. Just months later, O.D. Perry himself was gunned down, reportedly in retaliation by members from STL-EBT. This event was so major that Parkway Gardens was grimly renamed O-Block in his memory. In these early days of rising conflict, Duke was reportedly not just an observer. Before firearms became common in these clashes, he was said to be active in many physical fights, showing his willingness to stand his ground and fight for his block, slowly building a reputation for toughness. Along with his rising street presence came a growing arrest record. Starting in 2008 at just 14, Duke's encounters with the law became more frequent and serious, from minor offenses to charges like robbery and weapons possession, painting a clear picture of a life lived on the edge. As O-Block's wars grew stronger, Duke was not just a bystander, he was reportedly becoming an active fighter. But the violence was about to claim someone who would alter his path forever. February 14, 2017, Valentine's Day, is marked in O-Block's history with a dark permanence. On this day, James T.Roy Johnson, one of O-Block's most respected and reportedly active members, was shot and killed inside a convenience store. Reports claim T.Roy was in rival territory, allegedly hunting for TB from Tuka Gang, also known as STL, EBT, or TW. TB, alerted to his presence, confronted and fatally shot him. For O-Block, and for Munna Duke, who had grown up with T.Roy and shared a close bond, this loss was not just another death in the conflict. It was a deep blow, a personal insult that required a response. It's widely rumored T.Roy's death was the main trigger that changed Duke. He reportedly shifted from a respected member to a man consumed by a fierce need for payback, allegedly taking a lead role in what became known as the Get Back Gang time. The pain of losing T.Roy, it said, fueled an unmatched intensity in Duke. The loss of T.Roy was a huge event. For Munna Duke, its rumored grief quickly hardened into a determination that would see him allegedly lead one of O-Block's most ruthless efforts. After T.Roy's death, Get Back Gang became more than a phrase. It was a declared mission. Munna Duke, with his close associate H.K., T.Roy's younger brother O.D. H.K. McClure, reportedly became a main force in this campaign of vengeance. Street whispers and online chatter linked a series of bold and brutal acts of retaliation to this O-Block group. On May 14, 2017, Lil Ho from Jarrow City was gunned down. Many on the streets claim this act was an opening move by the Get Back gang, with Duke's name frequently mentioned in connection to the event. Just a month later, on June 16th, Poppy, a member of Tuka Gang and a close friend of TB, was shot and killed at his job. Again, rumors swirled, alleging HK was the triggerman, with Duke potentially involved as the driver or providing backup. The message was clear. O-Block was striking back, hard and relentlessly. Then, on September 26, 2017, TB, the man who took T.Roy's life, was shot multiple times and killed. It was a stunning act of revenge. Once more, HK was alleged to be the main shooter, with reports suggesting Meko from 600 and Munna Duke were part of the deadly group. Duke himself seemed to hint at this period in his music, with lyrics like, "Get back, gang, that's me and heck," further strengthening these street stories. The streets became a dangerous game, and Munna Duke's name, with HK's, was increasingly tied to some of the boldest and most shocking actions. But such a reputation brings great risk. The bond between Munna Duke and Davon King Von Bennett was very strong. King Von, before his own tragic death, frequently shouted out Duke in his music and featured him in videos. These actions greatly boosted Duke's street credibility and notoriety. Von's lyrics often painted a picture of Duke as a loyal and formidable figure, someone he trusted completely on hits. Lines like, "Take Duke on a hit, he like King Kong" from Von's track "Beat Dat Body" made clear the kind of respect Duke commanded. A tragic irony marked their connection. In October 2019, Duke was arrested on a gun possession charge and given a 2-year prison sentence. This time in jail meant he was absent during King Von's rapid rise to mainstream rap stardom. More devastatingly, Duke was still locked up when King Von was shot and killed in Atlanta in November 2020. He had to mourn his close friend and O-Block's brightest star from behind bars, missing Von's peak success and the terrible aftermath of his death. After Von's passing, the pressure and expectations on the remaining O-Block figures, particularly established names like Duke, reportedly grew. He was seen as one of the last OGs, a direct link to O-Block's most feared time. With King Von gone, O-Block's street leadership reportedly weighed heavier on figures like Duke. He was a living link to their most formidable time and a constant reminder of its dangers. After his release from prison in spring 2021, Munna Duke was welcomed back to O-Block with much fanfare. Lil Durk, a fellow Chicago drill icon, publicly showed him support. Soon, Duke, like many of his O-Block peers before him, decided to try rapping. He dropped tracks like 12 a.m. and Win, and later a debut album in 2023 titled Welcome to the Jungle. His music often reflected the harsh realities of his life and the street code he lived by. His efforts were solid, yet they struggled to get the breakout success King Von had experienced. Perhaps Von's immense talent and unique charisma cast too large a shadow, or maybe Duke's deeply set street reputation, the very thing that gave his music its authenticity, made it difficult for a wider audience to fully accept. It seemed a brave attempt to find a new path. The question lingered. Could a microphone truly offer an escape from a past written in bullets and blood? Tracks were dropped, and a new chapter seemed possible. Yet for men like Munna Duke, the echoes of the past often overpower the sounds of the future, and the streets have a long memory. The night of May 10, 2025, was meant for a celebration. Munna Duke, then 30 years old, often misreported as 31 given his birth year, was with his close O-Block associate Y.S. Youngin, Devin Varner, and reportedly Domo from 600, celebrating another O-Block member, Gleesh, and his birthday. They were at Pork Chop BBQ on North Broadway, an area far from the Southside battlegrounds they knew, a more gentrified, seemingly safer part of Chicago. But safety, for men like Duke, was always an illusion. Around 1:20 a.m., the celebration turned into a scene of carnage. A vehicle, reported by some witnesses as a stolen Infiniti Q50, allegedly pulled up. One or possibly two gunmen unleashed a fury of gunfire. Over 50 shell casings were reportedly found at the scene. Munna Duke was struck in the chest. Y.S. Youngin was hit multiple times. Both were rushed to nearby hospitals but died from their injuries. Domo was hit but survived. The boldness of the attack in such a public and relatively upscale area sent shockwaves through the city. Rumors about who was responsible began to fly almost at once. Initial speculation included various rival GD sets. The prevailing theory, strengthened by the discovery of the torched getaway car near Untold Gardens, pointed to an internal BD conflict. Whispers implicated Ghoulie Gang Bloodbath 130th, a Seto block had existing beef with. The night was meant for celebration, but it ended in carnage. A stark reminder that in Chicago's street wars, peace is often a fleeting illusion. Munna Duke's story had reached its violent end, but the questions it raised would linger. Munna Duke's death marked the end of an important chapter in O-Block's ongoing story. He was an original, a figure who had risen through the ranks, earned his stripes in blood and commanded respect and fear equally. His life, from the Calumet buildings to the front lines of O-Block's wars, to a brief try at music, and at last to a violent end on a North Side street, is a brutal reflection of a persistent cycle. He became another name added to the long list of those consumed by the very streets that made them. His legacy is a complex one, seen as a hero by some in his circle, a menace by rivals, and a tragedy by those who see the wasted potential in another young life cut short. Where street credibility is often prized, what is the true meaning of making a name when that name is carved on a tombstone far too soon? And what does Munna Duke's story truly tell us about the pull, the loyalty, and the final devastating cost of life on the front lines?